so that when the ambulances bring in people with really severe symptoms, they take them right into that COVID ward.
Oh, I think the rabbi's back now.
I'm so
good.
sorry about that.
Yeah.
So wait, Sam, were you saying that? I'm sorry about that. My internet went out for a second. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay.
Sam, were you saying that you have Haggadahs from your family?
I have Haggadahs that they were my dad's Haggadahs, and he used to use them when he did the Seder.
Is it the Maxwell one? Is it the old one, like the?
No, I don't think they're old.
I bought some on Amazon. I bought two or three different versions to try out.
Cool, that's exciting.
Those are coming on time, but nothing else would, so I couldn't get anything else.
Oh, so to answer your question, Amy, I think it's actually it could create beautiful memories where you use what you have in your house to be the cup of Elijah. So instead of it being something so fancy and ancient, it could be just something original that you came up with.
Yeah, my mom was just saying she'll send me a picture of the one I made at home.
That's so nice. That's so nice.
And also, you have a very nice one that your Nana gave you when you were a very little girl.
Really?
Just still here. It's Amy's, but it's still here in New Jersey. So I could send a picture. She could hold it up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. That's beautiful. Thank you, Amy, for your question. All right, sorry again for that pause. We'll continue. And just in case there's any lags or anything, you're muted, but you're welcome to unmute yourself at any time. So here's a very interesting part. If you're going to do a birthday party, if you're throwing a birthday party, I was actually in touch with someone today who did a birthday party. She's quarantined at home with her parents in Southern California. She's been there for a month already because she can't leave now. She has to help her parents. And it was cute. She was telling me she had a whole bunch of 90-year-olds on Zoom for her mom's birthday. It was cute how they all celebrated together. But usually when you do a birthday, there's cakes and candles, songs. Imagine if someone said, how much of the cake did you eat? Did you fulfill your birthday obligation by eating 3 slices? And did you sing the song long enough for it to be counted and for you to fulfill your obligation? That sounds nuts. But actually, in the Jewish way, there is a mitzvah of how it's to be done, when it's to be done. For many, the Seder is just, we get together, we nibble a little, we sip a little bit of wine, we sing a little, and we're done. But there actually is a right way of how it should be done. First of all, can everyone still hear me? Okay, good. Awesome.
Yes, but there's a little bit of fuzz
Okay.
in the sound.
Okay, I should have brought my mic.
Now sounds okay.
Okay, I guess I should have brought my mic.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, Amy. So actually the word Seder, which is the main theme of the night, Seder literally means an order, because there's actually an order of how the Seder is to be observed. There's an order and how to celebrate it. And there's many examples in life of reminding ourselves to the details of how important details are. Obviously, Sam would know from the hospital how much details are so important. But if you're a sports fan, this past year, Super Bowl didn't have it. But last year and maybe the year before, it literally came down to an inch or two that decided the fate. And the whole game was won over the game of inches. It was like an inch or two from the touchdown, from the end zone, but they didn't make it. You could get a ticket if you're parked 2 inches over the line, whatever. And the same is with an email address. If you're missing a little dot, the whole email address wouldn't work. Or if you're on a URL and you're missing a letter, it could seem like an insignificant letter, but it makes all the difference. So I'm just giving you different ideas that mitzvahs are no different, that the details do matter. And they're supposed to be done a certain way. The nuances have meaning, and they accomplish something. So the amount of matzah we eat, the time we actually fulfill the mitzvahs at the Seder, the items on the Seder plate, which we're going to be seeing soon, I'll be sharing my screen, all of that is important. And we have to pay attention to try to, as much as we can, to do it right. So just to give you a thought process, you could have a Yankel who's, this actually happened with several older Hasidim that we know of their stories. They came out alive and shared them. There was a Jew, his name was Reb Eliezer. His nickname was Lazer Nanis. My father-in-law knew him, a giant of a Chassid, while small in figure, a heart of a lion. And he stood through many years Russian labor camps and the gulags in Siberia while remaining strongly Jewish. He actually even received a nickname called Subatu. I think that's how you pronounce it in Russian, which means Saturday, because he was known as the Saturday because he never worked on Shabbat, even in the hardest of circumstances. But the guards try to make his life as miserable as possible, while the law was that the prisoners, inmates, the workers were allowed to receive package from loved ones, parcels from loved ones. They made it particularly hard. There was an anti-Semite as a guard who did everything he can to make Rabbi Nanas' life miserable, and he intercepted a package that was being sent from the family to their father and husband, to Rabbi Lezer Nanas. And this package had the matzah in it that he needed for the Seder. And he never got it. And he was stuck on his bed the night of the Seder, just being able to meditate on what matzah is. So you could have him on one hand, who's able to meditate with so much thought and heart of what the mitzvah of the Seder is, and then you could have someone else living in Manhattan, a very busy life, that he's so busy he doesn't even know that it's the Seder, but on his way home to catch the subway, he meets a yeshiva Chabadnik boy in the street who gives him a box of matzah and says, just do me a favor, eat this tonight. And he goes home, and together with the sandwich, he eats some matzah. Who actually, between these two personalities, who actually fulfilled the mitzvah? While the first one had all the meditations, the second busy worker, employee in Manhattan actually is the one that fulfilled the mitzvah. Because what's pronounced really is doing the Seder, not so much the meditation behind it. So while we have to have the meaning, we have to understand what's happening, but the actual process of it is actually the most important. So we'll focus on making a Seder a real Seder. So I'm going to be sharing my screen just to get some of the basics, a checklist of what's the basics. Whoever wants, I'm very happy to just email these after. It's a simple PDF that we put together. Basically, it's your Seder checklist. Amy, are you able to see the screen? Okay, cool. Thank you. Marcy, honestly, I don't know what I'll do without your Amy. She's a huge help for us in general, on Shabbos especially, with my children. My kids all miss Amy. And Yossi and Sam, I realize that every time we are on Zoom together with Yossi, he's always, I don't know if you got his messages, but he's always trying to text you at least and chat with you. And he always tells me at least that he misses seeing Sam in show. It's actually really cute. Okay, so here's your Seder checklist. You need a Seder plate. Now, it doesn't have to be a fancy plate. It could be a regular plate. You just need to know where to put things on the plate. And you can actually write it on top of the plates where they go. And I'm going to, whoever needs, I could provide. I think Sam and Amy, you guys are covered. Vivian, I'm sure you're having stuff cooked.
Yeah, I got the catering thing.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. And yeah. I think, Sam, you're getting from us the Seder in the box. So we're going to provide for you all these stuff. But you want a Seder plate. You want matzah. So now I discussed this a little bit last week. You're welcome to have the square matzah, which is yummy. But there's a specific matzah that needs to be eaten on this night. It's called the shmura matzah. It's actually the exact same style matzah the Jews left Egypt with. It's called the bread of affliction. Now, the square matzah, which has oil and honey and maybe not honey, but oil and salt and eggs, together with the flour and the water, is actually called a rich matzah. And for the night of the Seder, we have to have the bread of a poor man's bread, which is the shmura matzah, literally just flour and water. You need wine or grape juice, meaning if you're able to drink wine, that's great. It should be kosher wine. But if you can't get wine, you could get grape juice. They have it at Costco. They have it at Harvest Market, at Safeway, many other stores. If you're not able to get grape juice, I stocked up on grape juice. So I'm happy to give whoever needs a bottle of grape juice. You're going to need a hard-boiled egg, a roasted piece of meat or poultry. So we, Chabad customers, have a chicken neck. But other people, for their Seder plate, they're going to use other things. And we're going to go through all these things at length. And I'll show you pictures of where they go. But here's just a basic checklist. You want some romaine lettuce. I'll explain to you why. You want some ground horseradish. If the ground horseradish is a lot sharper, you have to be a little bit brave. It's basically taking the root of the radish, the horseradish, and grinding it up. It gets very sharp. Whenever I grind it, I actually cry just from the sharpness of it. Charoset, I could post to whoever wants some of our favorite charoset recipes. There's all different ways to make it. I'll go through some of the basics. You need a vegetable, and depending on your custom, it's either a potato, an onion, parsley. It could be parsnip or celery. My grandfather used to take celery. You're going to want some salt water, which is easy to make. It's just mixing some salt together with water. You're going to need some candles to light. And finally, you're going to need a Haggadah. We could provide all of these for you. So just in case you can't find all of these. All right, so now I'm going to go through the next part. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for a few minutes. Okay, so the key parts of the Seder is the matzah, the wine or grape juice, and the items for the Seder, which we just went through. The basics of the mitzvah is like this. The mitzvah of the night is mainly to eat matzah. The Jewish people, when we prepared for our exodus of Egypt, we didn't have time to wait for our dough to rise, and we just put it on our back and we left quickly. So it baked while it was still not risen. At its core, matzah is made of flour and water. Generally, you have 3 matzahs for your Seder. It's supposed to be, it's representing 3 levels, Cohen, Levi, and the Yisrael. But even 2 you could get away with, 2 is fine. But if you have more people at your Seder, you want to try to give a portion of the matzah to each person, so you're welcome to get more. And whoever needs matzah, we have plenty to go around. And just to explain to you the importance of matzah for your Seder, there was a big philanthropist who came to the Rebbe in the 80s. Oh, Sam, do you have a question? No, okay. Oh, maybe, not sure.
Actually, I was wondering, now in the Seder in the box, are most of the things included in that? What do I have to get from the store?
Everything for the Seder is included. So you're going to get matzah,
Okay.
You're going to get the Haggadah, you're going to get the Seder plate. It's more of a placemat, actually. It tells you where to put everything. You're going to get the main items for the Seder. So you're going to get the maror, the shank bone, the egg. It's all going to be in there. The maror, it's all going to be in the Seder box. You're even going to get a plastic frog that's coming with it.
Do you know of any rabbis near my mom that has that?
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. I'm gonna make a note, and Marcy, I'm gonna arrange it for you after. Okay?
Mom, you need to put the.
Oh no, it's fine.
Up.
It's fine. She could just give her a thumbs up. Arrange for Marcy. Perfect. Yeah, this is actually what most of Chabad are doing, is coming up with the Seder in the box, so it's to go, and we're making it that way. So there was a philanthropist who came to the Rebbe in the 80s, and he said, Rebbe, I want to donate towards a big project. Rebbe, you could choose whatever project you want. I'm happy to donate a big sum of money to help get it done. And the Rebbe said that I want you to help with the project of delivering matzah for people that need matzah for their Seder, and I think this was specifically in Israel. And the philanthropist said, Rebbe, I want a big project. Like, I'm expecting something big. Choose something bigger. And the Rebbe says, if you want something big, I'm letting you know that the matzah is something big for me. Matzah is important, that shmur matzah is eaten at the Seder. In fact, the Rebbe's father, who was the chief rabbi in the Ukraine from 1907 until he was in his imprisonment of communist Russia in 1939, one of the things he fought adamantly for is to make sure that the matzah is kosher matzah, the matzah is shmur matzah for the Seder evening. So besides for the matzah, we also have 4 cups. Now, usually every kiddush or havdalah, we have a cup of wine or grape juice. But the night of the Seder, we actually have 4. And the reason why we have 4, it's instituted by the sages, because when God took us out of Egypt, he promised our exodus with 4 different expressions. He said, I will redeem you, I will take you out, I will save you. He used 4 different expressions, so we remember these expressions of freedom with 4 different royal cups. Now, it's an interesting dynamic that we have matzah together with wine. On one hand, wine is symbolizing taste. Wine, there's all these tasters and connoisseurs and how aged the wine is, and if there's a tinge of a fruity blackberry flavor, or if it's a peach flavor, that's a tinge in the palate when you're tasting it. Wine is epitomizing taste and enjoyment, whereas matzah is the exact opposite. Matzah almost always is stale. The way it is, it's very bland, it's plain. And it's actually meant to be that way. It's a beautiful dynamic in Judaism where we actually are inspired with both elements. On one hand, you need to have enjoyment in the mitzvah we're doing. It has to be something with taste. You have to do it with love. In Yiddish, it's called, I'm giving a Yiddish class now on Wednesdays. In Yiddish, the word would be a geschmack. You do it with great enthusiasm, love, and enjoyment. The mitzvah is not supposed to be done with a sour attitude. It's supposed to be done with love. So the wine is epitomizing the taste, the enjoyment, the excitement we're doing a mitzvah with. But at the same time, Judaism also reminds us, like any relationship, you're not only committed in the relationship when it's enjoyable to you. There's tougher days, there's thicker days, and yet you stick it out. You get through it. Even when I don't feel so excited, you're still respectful and you're still committed to each other. And that's symbolized by the matzah. The matzah is the plain days. The matzah is the plain part of our relationship with God, how that is a crucial element, our humbleness and our commitment beyond all else. So the matzah and the wine dynamic is actually beautiful. It's a duality, reminds us of our relationship, needs to have an embrace and embrace both of these elements. Okay, so we have to embrace both. Okay, now that's the matzah, that's the wine. Another main element is the Seder plate. And I'm gonna, if it's okay with everyone, I'm gonna share my screen again. This time we're gonna go through the Seder plate. I have a picture of it, just on a different PDF, which again, I would be so happy to share this with everyone. I would be very happy to share it so that everyone could understand it a little better on their own. All right, so there are 6 items on our Seder plate. I'm gonna keep it basic. There's a lot of Kabbalah of why this goes here and that goes there, but we're gonna go through the basics. Some are very traditional. Some vary based on your grandparents. And I'll get to those different examples a little bit later, but you'll see what I mean. On the top, to the right and to the left, you have an egg on the top left. It's a hard-boiled egg. And on the top right, you have a shenkbon. These are 2 cooked items, meaning it's roasted or it's cooked, whatever it is. And these are actually to remind us of 2 dishes that we would eat on the night of Passover. We would eat from the Paschal lamb, and we would eat from the holiday offering that was brought up. Every holiday, we would all celebrate the holiday in Jerusalem, and we would bring up a sheep to celebrate. We would have a barbecue, and every family would celebrate. They would go up to the temple, and they would bring an offering, and they would actually bring that offering back home to celebrate. It was called a celebration offering, a carbon chagiga. We would celebrate with good steak. So to remember these 2 offerings on the night of the Seder, one was the holiday offering, which is symbolized by the shenkbon. The other is the egg that symbolizing the Paschal lamb. We actually eat the egg during the Seder, but we don't eat the shenkbon. It's a bone. It's not that enjoyable to eat. Chabad custom is actually, we don't even use a shenkbon. We actually just do a chicken neck. And if you need a chicken neck, we have, Sam, it'll be included in your Seder in the box. Chicken neck for it. Something else, we actually traditionally, and tell me, I think you guys would remember this from your Seders, we actually at some point dip the egg into salt water. And it's to remind us of the bitterness of Egypt. It's reminded by the salt water. And the egg is actually, whoever unfortunately had to sit Shiva, one of the food items fed to a mourner is actually an egg. It's to remind them of the cycle of life like an egg, which is circular. And the idea of the since the night of the Seder, we don't have a real offering since the temple is not built. Therefore, we're a little sad that we don't have the real temple to have the full-on barbecue, the full-on offering. Now, in the middle, we have our favorite, of course, which is the bitter herb. This is of biblical origin, and even on the first Seder, which is interesting, you would think they were bitter enough, they didn't need a maror, they didn't need the bitter herb, but already from the first Seder, they had this maror at their Seder celebration. In the Mishnah and the Talmud, it actually lists 5 different items that could be used for the maror, for the bitter herb. We don't know all the things that they were referring to, but 2 of them that we do know of is the horseradish, and the other one is romaine lettuce. Now, I don't know how many of you had romaine lettuce together with your horseradish growing up, but in the Talmud, it actually lists romaine lettuce as one of the valid items for the bitter herb. Now, as a kid, I always loved romaine lettuce. It's not so bitter, but the truth is, if romaine lettuce is left unharvested, it actually would turn very bitter. So when we eat it, it's actually not bitter, but if it would have been growing and left unharvested, it would actually turn very bitter. And it's actually a reminder of how the Jews began their enslavement. The beginning, we came down royally. We came down, Joseph was the viceroy. We all were treated with great honor and respect. It only was later when slowly we fell into the trap and we woke up years later realizing, wait a minute, we're slaves. So something at the beginning could seem very sweet, but the end is very bitter. And the romaine lettuce is a reminder of that, how enslavement and how attachment to something works. It's not all in one shot. It's a gradual process until you wake up and you realize this is not where I want to be holding. So we actually use the maror at 2 parts of the Seder. So therefore, we actually have 2 items of the maror. One is in the middle over here, and one is actually at the bottom. So the way our Chabad custom is, and obviously do how you want, but we actually mix both. We take romaine lettuce on the bottom, and we actually put the horseradish shreds inside of it, and we eat it together. So we ball it up, and then we eat it. The horseradish, shredded lettuce, the shredded horseradish, together with the romaine lettuce. So the bottom is my favorite, the charoset on the bottom right. I'm sure some of you have a family recipe of how charoset is made. I would be happy to share with you, but typically it's made from apples, pears. Some people have customs to put dates in there. I think it's more Sephardic. They put dates in it, pomegranates, walnuts, almonds, cinnamon, ginger could go in it. So there's definitely a lot of different items that go into the charoset, and it's definitely delicious. We keep ours pretty simple. I think Chabad custom is just apples, pears, and walnuts, but definitely there's different ideas of how it could be done. And then we actually just mix some grape juice or wine to remind us of the blood that the Jews actually had in Egypt. And the actual charoset, the mixture together, is reminding us of the mortar that we had to make for all the buildings that we were making. And what we do during the Seder is we actually dip the maror, the bitter herb, into the charoset. That's one of the main parts of the Seder, is the dipping. And actually in the Manishtana, which we'll get to soon, one of the questions is, why are we dipping? Right? We dip twice. And that's part of the Manishtana, one of the main themes. And now finally on the bottom left, and I would be curious to know what everyone's custom is, but the bottom left over here, it's an onion, but it could be really any vegetable. So my grandfather from North Africa, he would use a celery. Some people use parsley, which is actually very common. I think that's the main one, is parsley. Some people, it really depends where people came from. The Jews from Russia, they didn't have parsley, so they would use either a potato or an onion. So Chabad custom, which many Chabadniks came from Russia, they would actually use, we actually use potato or onion. People from Europe, typically Ashkenazic from Europe, would use parsley. North Africa uses a celery or maybe even a radish or a carrot. Sam, do you remember what you guys did growing up? I'm just going to unmute you over here. Oops, go ahead.
Yeah, we must be Ashkenazic because my ancestors came from Hungary, and we always used parsley.
There you go. And Amy, what did you use in your family?
I think parsley, right, Mom?
Yeah, that's the most classic, is the parsley.
Parsley.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. So we use potato or onion, parsley, radish, celery, carrot, any vegetable is good. What we do with that is we actually dip it into the salt water. Okay. Finally, the time when this is done is actually when, if anyone has been to our Seder, we actually called our Seder, our communal Seder that we rented out City Hall for, we actually called it for 7:30. Now, really, the stars only come out at 8:08, I think. And so we actually start the Seder earlier, where we mingle with people, we start a first course, but the actual 4 cups of wine and the matzah eating, we only do after nightfall. Because the energy in the air, you can only tap into it on the night of when God told us to do it, meaning that energy of freedom is only relevant on this night. And the night begins at 8:08. So we actually begin our Seder. You could start it earlier, and it keeps people involved. But the actual 4 cups of wine and the matzah eating and the maror eating, we do only from 8:08. So you could sing songs, you could tell stories and memories, start the Seder before, but it's very relevant and important to have it at the right time. Okay, now we're going to wrap up with the last part of the Seder. This is going literally step by step, the different parts. I'm also going to be sharing, for whoever wants, a PDF of some of the important parts of the Seder that has it in Hebrew and in English. Sam, you're already going to be getting a Haggadah from us. So I don't know if you will need it as much, but you could print a full Haggadah online, or I could send you a PDF and you can get it both in Hebrew and in English. So here we go. We're just going to go through a few steps. A reflection is a very important part. Finding what's relevant to me, what am I looking to free myself from? If God would want something else from me, what would it be that I could offer of myself? What would it be that I could free myself from? So we start with lighting Shabbat candles. I have a calendar in front of me. Sundown, which means Shabbat candlelight, the holiday lighting time is at 7:22 next Wednesday, April 8th. So from after 7:22, you light the candles, and you make a blessing. And I have a PDF of the blessing. I could share that with everyone. It's a pretty easy one. It's the blessing of Lahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov instead of Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbat, and the Shechianu. You fill a cup of wine or grape juice. Most cups are bigger than 5, 6, 7, 8 ounces, but the minimum, oh yes, Sam, go ahead. The minimum is 3.2 ounces that you have to drink to be counted as a cup. Go ahead, Sam, yeah.
Can Lisa light our candles even though she's not Jewish?
Yeah, for sure. I think you should all light. You can light together. It would be nice for you all to light. And especially, Sam, I'm looking, the Jewish yard site of your mom, of Lillian, is on the day before Passover.
Yes, April 7th.
April 7th. So it'd be nice anyway, on April 8th, it'll definitely bring your mom into the room with you. I'm sure she's always there. But light candles for her. So the night of the Seder, you'll have a candle burning for your family and of course with Lisa. So I think you should all light. That's a good question. I like the idea of both of you lighting. Thank you for that question. So I just want to reiterate this point. Personal reflection is a huge part of the Seder. So if you're going to be a Seder leader, think about what you want to work on yourself, and only then could you even inspire others to work on something that they need to work on. And you don't have to spell it out for them, but you need to open them up to it. And part of that is reflecting it on your own. So before my Seder every year, I actually take time to think about what is it that I'm going to be trying to work on for the next little while. And then you could impart that inspiration at your Seder to make it relevant to all those. So you want the Kiddush cup to be at least you want to drink from it 3.2 ounces, which is a very small amount. It's like not even a half a cup of your regular cup that you drink from. But we fill up our cup and we drink. We try to drink the majority of it, and we drink it leaning to our left. And the reason not to our right is because the right, it could be dangerous. That's where the air pipe is. We don't want to choke. But we want to lean because in olden days, the royal way, kings and queens and the royalty they would eat on couches. They would be leaning over. So we want to remind ourselves that tonight we are queens. Tonight we are kings. Tonight we are free. So we want to celebrate that freedom by leaning. So when we drink the 4 cups of wine, which is a reminder of our liberation, we actually drink leaning to our left. You can read it in the Hebrew, of course, or you can read it in English or in the transliteration. All of it works. Then the next step of the Seder is the vegetable. The vegetable is step 4 over here. You take that, it's called in Hebrew a karpas. You dip it in salt water to remind ourselves of the bitter enslavement. And there's a blessing we say. And this actually is the reason why we eat a vegetable now. It's actually to invoke questions at the table. Usually we make kiddush. What do we do next? We eat challah. We go wash our hands. And over here instead, we're actually eating a vegetable. And we're not even getting a full meal yet. We actually go through the whole Haggadah first. And it's really there to invoke questions of children or of yourself, inquiry of saying, what are we doing here? Why is this night different? We recite a blessing on the vegetable. It's hadamah. And I have another printout where the blessings are all listed out. And it's also just beautiful to know that we're welcoming questions this evening. So anyone who has questions, the night of the Seder is meant for questions. The whole Seder is one big question. Why is this night different than all other nights? It's reminding us that the way we educate our children is not by hammering in something, this is what we do. It's allowing them, doing things that they should ask questions, involving them, embracing their questions, and patiently answering them. That's what we do at the night of the Seder. And is Marcy, is your cat going to be eating matzah this year? Very cute. That's adorable. Okay. Now, whether you have children at your Seder or not, it's not a children's thing. We usually have children ask the questions, the 4 questions, because we want to involve them. But really, the 4 questions are meant for everyone to ask. Even the Rebbe, when he was 90, he was still asking the 4 questions and even saying the words, prefacing it, saying, Father, I want to ask you 4 questions. It's what we all do, and we all ask these questions. And tonight, honestly, we have the night of the Seder this year, we'll definitely have even more questions of saying, why is the Seder like it this year? The next part is actually one of the most important parts of the Seder, which is step 5. It's reliving the story. What we do is the middle matzah, we have 3 matzahs at our Seder. Sam, you're going to be getting 3 matzahs from us. The middle matzah, you actually break into half because the story of the Seder is supposed to be recited over a broken matzah to remind ourselves of the affliction. So you break the matzah in half. The bigger half, you break it in 2. The bigger half, you actually hide, let the children look for, and that's going to be reserved for the dessert. In Hebrew, it's called the afikoman. That's the word of dessert in Hebrew. And that's reserved for later. But the smaller half, we keep at the Seder table, and that's actually the conversation is over this middle broken matzah, the bread of affliction. We pour the 2nd cup of wine, and then we ask questions. Why is this night different? That's where the manishtana comes in. Now, this is just my suggestion. This is what I do. Every year before the Seder, I actually look over the Haggadah. I've been saying the Haggadah for 30 years, and I still always need to look it over to make sure I got it right. There's always something I need to change up in either a commentary or a different feeling this year, something different for this year that I need to make more relevant. So I do suggest if you're leading a Seder, try to prepare a little bit prior so that you know what's coming up in the Seder. There's some really good Seder Haggadahs out there that really take you through the Haggadah in a very friendly way. It tells you how we slide into this part. I could give you suggestions. I've already emailed out to several people some of my favorite Haggadahs. Some of them are written in a very friendly, cute way. Some of them are written with a lot of deep commentaries. It's different styles. All of them are good. I could give you different options in different ways. You could even come by my house, and from 6 feet away, I could show you the different Haggadahs as samples, as options, and you could choose the one that you want. And like I said in Amy, in the first class I gave on this a few weeks ago, is do things that involve people at the Seder by having things at the Seder that are very out of the box. Sam, if you remember from our Seders, We have like sometimes I bring a brick and I have a kid open up a box that has a brick in it, and the kids have to figure out what's the connection of a brick to the Seder. It could be sunglasses, and sunglasses connection is because one of the plagues was the plague of darkness. You could have a whole bunch of different ideas, and it's really just allowing you creativity to involve people and to make it a little bit more exciting. After we finish this is the longest part of the Haggadah, which is telling over the story. At the beginning, we were slaves and we were persecuted, but then we came out strong and free, and God took us out with great miracles. That's the main part of the Haggadah. I have a text that is shortening the Haggadah to the bare minimum, but still making it meaningful, and I'll be happy to share that. But this is the part where most people fall asleep at the Seder, where it's long, but it's your job to keep it meaningful, keep it entertaining. And then we go on to the matzah. So you drink the second cup of wine, you wash and you eat matzah. When we eat the matzah, if I'm not mistaken, let's check it up over here also. You wash your hands and you eat the matzah while reclining, again to the left. After you eat your matzah, then you will eat the maror. There's a blessing to say on the maror as well. It's going to be in the Haggadah. We take the bitter herb, we dip it into some of the charoset, that yummy mix, and then we make a blessing, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, al achilat maror, and then we eat it, but for this we don't recline. And the reason is very simple. The maror is reminding us of the bitterness of enslavement. It's not reminding us of the freedom of how we left. So the matzah, which is reminding us of the freedom we left, the wine, which is reminding us of royalty, we lean like kings. But the maror is reminding us of the enslavement and the bitterness. So for that, we don't lean, we don't recline. Then, this is the fun part, you eat the egg, which is another part of the Seder plate. Now, I don't know if I'm on the record or not, but growing up, we always had a competition because there was eggs for each person, and it would be a competition of who could eat the egg the fastest. So we would all throw the egg in our mouth, and whoever was able to swallow the egg first was the winner. So that was always something fun. And then we would be sick for the rest of the meal. And finally, the meal, you enjoy a holiday meal. Some of you may have brisket at your Seder. I don't know. I'm sure, Amy, you're going to enjoy your apple kugel that you ordered from the caterer. So I think you're going to have a lot of it. So I think you'll enjoy that. Finally, after that, you eat the afikoman. The afikoman is the bigger part of the matzah that was left to the side. You eat that. The afikoman is like the dessert, which is the last part of the meal. And then we wrap up the Seder. So we'll fill up the cup of Elijah. We recite the blessings after meal, which is again in the printout. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Then we pour the fourth cup. We drink the third cup, and then we drink the fourth cup. And then we say next year in Jerusalem. So I'm going to show.
I have a question about the afikoman. Since it's dessert, are you allowed to put chocolate on it or something? Or are you supposed to eat it as the bread of affliction?
That's a good question. So what we do is we actually just eat a dessert first. We have a 7-layer cake, or Adina makes a chocolate mousse. I'm going to put her recipe for chocolate mousse on our website because people have been asking for it. So we actually just make a dessert first, and then we'll eat the afikoman after it. But I do see the enjoyment of having it together. But I think the point of the afikoman is to say this is the finale. So we don't want to show that we want to add more to it. It's the final thing. I think that's the way ideally it should be done. But you're doing a pretty good job, Amy, if you got to this part of it. So I'll cut you some slack and I'll let you sliver some chocolate on it.
What do you usually give your kids for finding it? Do you give them a prize or?
So every year since we had kids, every year my father-in-law was with us, and him and with toys is like a kid in a candy shop. He loves giving my kids toys. It's his addiction, I would say. It's a blessing for everyone. Besides for my mother-in-law, she can't stand it. That there's always. I'm kidding. No, it's a fun part of the family. So my father-in-law does it every year, but it's a good way to keep the kids involved. Is getting them something. Some people, it's actually interesting, Sam. Did you have the custom growing up of stealing the afikoman, of finding it?
Yes, and we always had Seder. Usually we had a Seder with another family that also had kids. And so I was an only child, and I didn't like it that my dad brought in a competition. But anyway, yeah, usually there was four or five kids there. We were all scouring the house, and my dad always gave the finder a dollar bill.
But this is like 90 years ago, Sam, so it was worth a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to like keep that dollar or like put it in for tzedakah? Is there like a tradition for that?
But I think Sam meant like he was able to buy a prize with it, right? He was able to use it.
For whatever I wanted, he just gave the finder a dollar. Whatever you want to do with your dollar, that's up to you.
Right. It's interesting because I saw different customs. Some people, so it seems like, Sam, the way you did it, and I think this is the more common way, is the father or the parent hides it and the child has to find it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the way it used to be, someone could correct me if they know differently, is the kids would actually steal it, the kids would hide it, and the father would have to find it because the father can't finish a Seder until he eats the afikomen. So it would be the father that finds it. Did anyone hear of that style or that way? It's just like the reverse from what most people are familiar with.
We never did that.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
always,
Okay, so I'm just going to show you the one last handout. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot an important part. We filled the cup of Elijah. I missed one part over here. When you fill the cup of Elijah, I guess I missed it from here, but you recite the Hagafen blessing and drink the third cup. And at that point, you actually open the door for Elijah.
Yeah.
So that's actually a beautiful part of the Seder. Elijah, it says this year there's a lot of memes about Elijah not being invited into the homes because he went to certain homes. He probably contracted the virus somewhere along the way. But we opened the door for Elijah. It's actually a beautiful, already just before my class, Levi already reserved that he's the one that's able to go to the door to open the door for Elijah. We take the flame, the candle that we lit the holiday with, the holiday candles, we actually take that to the door and we say a blessing that all those terrorists and evildoers, God should take care of, God should destroy them, and only peace and freedom should rest in the world. So Elijah is the one that's going to bring upon, is going to be the one sharing the news of Mashiach. And we have to be very close to Mashiach with what the world is going through now. So hopefully this will be the time when Elijah will come and tell us that Mashiach is here. So it's a very significant part of the Seder of opening the door for Elijah. It's one of our favorite parts for sure.
It's the Eliyahu song, right?
Exactly. We sing the Eliyahu and Navi song, exactly. And we end the Seder by saying next year in Jerusalem. Some of you will be saying next year on Zoom. But I'm just going to share one more PDF while I still have you all. Everyone's welcome to this. There's more to it, but this is just like some of the basics of the blessings we say, which is the Hadagner Shel Yom Tov, and this is the Shechianu blessing, and then this is some of the liturgy of Kiddush, which is the Borei Pri Agafen, and also has the English on the left side. So God understands all languages, of course, and then you have the blessing on the vegetable, which is towards the beginning of the meal, beginning of the Seder. Then you have the 4 cups, and it gives you some of the instructions. You pour the second cup of wine, and of course, if any of you want, we have 150 Haggadahs that we usually use every year. So you're welcome to one of those Haggadahs if you want. If you remember them from last year, they're very colorful. They look like this, and I'll just show you my favorite picture of it. It's just my favorite. And every year I point out my favorite. This is Elijah with the door being opened by 2 young children.
That's nice.
So anyways, my favorite picture. So if anyone wants this Haggadah, you're of course welcome to it. But there's a bunch of nice options online. And then you have the final part of the Haggadah. You have to say this part to fulfill your obligation on the second cup. And finally, the blessing on the second cup. And then you have the matzah, which is the next step. You have the maror, which is step 11. And then you have the blessing after meals and the opening of the door for Elijah. And that's it. That's basically the end. So obviously I made it seem pretty easy. After 4 cups of wine, you're going to be wobbling to your bed with a big smile on your face, I hope. And that's a little bit of your Seder. I'm just going to stop sharing this for a moment. If anyone has any questions, we'll open it up, and then we'll end the class.
When do you sing like Dayenu and stuff?
Oh, so that's actually by the main part of the Seder, by the Manishtana. That's the longest part of the Seder. That's where all the words are, where you explain the whole story. So it starts with us being slaves. And as slaves, we had it very tough. And it goes through how we know how bad it was, how our back-breaking labor and our children were thrown into the Nile River. It goes through the hard parts. And then it says, and God listened to our cries. And it starts telling us how we made our way out of Egypt, and God himself redeemed us, not through a messenger, but God himself came to redeem us, and he passed over. And that's why we have the Pesach offering, the Passover offering, the Paschal Lamb, and the matzah and the maror. You have to explain why we have all those 3 things. All those words, it's a lot of words, it's in the Haggadah. So during that miracle part, it says Dayenu, which means it would have been enough. If God would have just taken us out and not split the sea for us, it would have been enough. If God would have given us Shabbat and not given us the Torah, it would have been enough. And we sing the whole Dayenu. All that is in the main part of the Haggadah, the longest part.
There goes your cat again.
Yeah, Simba likes it.
He's listening. He's learning.
Is it a Jewish cat? Does he have
Yeah.
does he have a circumcision?
Yeah,
Yeah, he does.
he did. Yeah.
All right, so that does it.
All right, thank you, Rabbi.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you.
Feel free to ask questions. If anyone wants the PDF, just let me know. I'll be happy to share all of them with you.
I was gonna ask you, do you
I
happen
would like
to
to.
have extra Joyvin I could buy from you?
Yeah, sure.
I looked on their website, but it wouldn't ship in time.
You know what? If you want, there's a website that's based here in NorCal. And
Oh,
if you
really?
order today, it'll get here by the weekend. They told me that was yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I looked on the kosherwine.com, but in order for it to get here by Passover, the shipping is like $80 or
It's
something.
not worth it. You know, if you want,
Because
you're
I'm
obviously
I
welcome.
only ordered.
Oh, you know what? My sister-in-law is coming up from LA. She's driving. I could ask her to bring it.
Okay, yeah, no worries if you can't, but if you happen to have an
That's a
extra
good
one
idea. Okay, for sure.
somewhere,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'd
I can
like.
buy catering food.
yeah, Marcy, I
Yeah.
think you would enjoy the Joyvin also. Your daughter's been drinking a lot of it at my house.
It's like
Can I
a
say-
low alcohol content, like sweet wine.
Yeah, it's like 5% and it's bubbly.
Yeah, I would say I'd like the PDF, and you mentioned in the beginning you had some good recipes for different versions of the.
Absolutely. I'll send it to you.
Roasted.
I just don't know if I have your email address. So maybe if you could text me or email me your mom's
Yeah,
email.
I'll text-
Okay,
and
thank
you
you.
can put a list of
Awesome.
emails.
All right, and
Yeah.
Marcy, I'll try to get you that Seder in the box, okay?
Okay, and if you can't, that's all right, not a problem. Because I know there's a Chabad in Monroe Township. That's about 40 minutes from here,
Okay.
and I don't know. There may be one in Hamilton, my community, but I'm not sure. I know there was a family that came, a rabbi and his wife, maybe 6-7 years ago. I don't know if they're still here or not.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me look into it. Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, have a good night. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. You too, Rabbi.
I'll see
Thank
later.
you.
Bye.